Hey everybody, welcome to The Bottom Line. We're so glad that you can be with us for this program. I'm Susan, and this is my wonderful husband, Jim. He's so good and sweet and kind. Anyway, today we're going to be talking to you about fear God. So what do you think about that, Jim?
Well, some people, might misunderstand that. They think you're supposed to be afraid of God. And I just don't think you ought to be afraid of God.
So we're not talking about being afraid. No. And I would think that probably this is not the most popular message in church.
Probably not.
Or a Bible study. But it might be one of the most powerful truths that you ever actually regarded. Okay, fear God. So let's just talk about what is fear God. I know we've got a good definition down here. You want to do that?
All right, W.E. Vine's dictionary says this: a reverential fear of God is not a mere fear of His power and righteous retribution, but a wholesome dread of displeasing Him. The reverential fear of God will inspire a constant carefulness in dealing with others.
Wow, so that's right there where it says a wholesome dread of displeasing Him.
That's right. And here's what Webster's dictionary says.
Okay.
Honor or respect. Profound respect mingled with love and awe.
Okay, so the short definition would be honor.
Right.
Fear God, we could have say, just means honor God. It's a little more than that.
Yes.
But I really like this part about the wholesome dread of displeasing Him.
Yes.
That's why you develop this attitude of fearing God, because you want to please Him in every way.
Everything that you do, you never want to do anything that you know would displease God.
Right. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to give you a few scriptures, because I hope you're ready to write, because Jim's got a lot of scriptures for this one. Okay, so if you fear God, you honor Him, you don't want to displease Him. So look at this, Luke 1:37. For with God, nothing will be impossible. Now, right there is a good reason to have this attitude towards God, because nothing is impossible with Him. And if you go back and read all of this, it will talk about what's possible with man and all of that. Right. But nothing is impossible with God.
That's right. Jesus told the man, came to him to heal his son, and the man said, "If you can, help me." Jesus said, "If you can." He said, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes."
Okay, and see, that takes you right back to the thing of having this honor and this respect about God. You have to have that first to have that.
Yes, you do.
To have that in your life. I remember when in the early days of our marriage, you had in fact, is it okay if I tell?
Sure.
Okay. He had arthritis in his ankles actually.
Yes.
In fact, he had gone to the doctor because, it would hurt so much. And so the doctor said, "You know what, Jim? You're going to have to find yourself a sitting down job." And Jim was a pharmacist, so he stood up all day long. And so anyway, he said, "You're not going to be able to stand year after year. You're going to have to sit." He said, "because this is going to go up your legs." He said, "It's begun on this side, and that's why you feel it so much." He said, "On the other one, it's not as bad," but he said it will be. Okay, he had no hope. He had nothing to offer. There was no fix for it. It was impossible with man.
That's right.
Okay, and so anyway, but this verse said, nothing is impossible with God. And so anyway, what happened is, I don't remember how much time passed, maybe a year, maybe two. And so we came along and we met these people, and they said, "Hey, there's going to be this guy at this church tonight. He's going to be praying for the sick." And so, we're not sick, but Jim was having this hurting, right, and it was really bad. And so, he said, "I think let's just go." He said, "He can just pray for me." And so he did.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyhow, now what happened, it was not like a miracle healing that he got, because the next morning when he woke up, it was still apparent that it was still there some, but what happened is over time it completely left. I mean, I don't know how long it took, maybe a month, but it was just totally gone, just gone. Okay, well, with God, nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible.
Man could do nothing for this.
That's right.
Nothing. And here we were, very young, in our 20s. Well, who wants a report like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, we had fallen in love with the Lord.
Yes, we had.
You know, and we had decided, man, we just want to live our lives for Him. And so when we found out about this, we just went. And He just did, and then He just was well.
That's right.
Praise God. Nothing's
Amen.
impossible with God.
Amen. So we're talking about fearing the Lord, having respect
Fear
for
God, yeah. Okay, here's another reason. Oh, and this is almost just like that one. Is anything too hard for the Lord?
Nope, absolutely
Okay, that's
not.
Genesis 18:14,
Right.
part A. Okay, now what is this in reference to when he said that? Is anything too hard for God? That was about Abraham.
That was about Abraham and Sarah having a baby.
Yeah.
Is anything too hard for the
Think
Lord?
about that. Abraham was 75 when he got the news, right? Now, he was 100 before the baby was even born, which, what? Is anything too hard for the Lord?
Right.
No, the answer is no.
That's right.
Nothing.
So, you know, so we need to, we understand. Let's skip down here to Proverbs chapter 8. I
Okay.
like this. It says, the fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride and arrogance and the evil way and the perverse mouth I hate.
Okay, so I hadn't found where you are yet.
And then here's what the Passion Translation said. Wisdom pours into you when you begin to hate every form of evil in your life. For that's what worship and fearing God is all about. Then you will discover that your pompous pride and perverse speech are the very ways of wickedness that I hate. Isn't that good?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's,
The fear of the Lord is to hate evil. Mm-hmm. You know, if you stop and think about fearing the Lord, you know, to me a perfect example is Joseph.
yeah.
Here's a young man. He was his daddy's favorite, no doubt about it. He was treated totally different from the rest of his brothers, etc., etc. So the Bible says that his brothers hated him.
Yep.
They didn't just like him. They
hated him. Yeah.
And so they wanted to. They were going to kill him. But his older brother Reuben said, "No, we can't do that." But so what happened was they ended up selling him to the Midianites, which they in turn took him to Egypt, and he was sold as a slave. Now, this is a young man that had grown up with the best of the best.
Right. And you get a picture of this in your mind. What is he, like 17 maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, that's not very old.
No,
and so you think about how he felt that day. You know, he's been captured, and now they approach Egypt, and all of a sudden he could see all of the things they built, the pyramids and all this. Can you imagine how he felt? And he's just a kid.
Just a kid. And so he's sold, and a man named Potiphar buys him as a slave. So he's in there, and whatever. But you have to understand, he never lost his fear of God.
Right.
Because Potiphar's wife tried to get him to come in and sleep with her, and he said no. And she tried, and he said no. He said, I cannot do this and sin against God.
Right. It all went back to his fear
of the Lord.
God.
He had a holy dread of
displeasing God.
The Lord. Isn't that good? Even though his life had taken such a terrible turn for the worse.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have become bitter, become hardened, but he chose to continue to fear the Lord.
You know, Jim, you just wonder how much his dreams that he had encouraged him, because, he'd had the dreams, which were the reason he had gotten in such a predicament with his family brothers, the patron saints. But anyway, he had dreamed, how they were going to bow down to him. And you just wonder, well, did this accompany him, all the way? And it was so large in his mind that he just knew, someday. I mean, do you suppose that
Yes, I do.
was like that? And then, so many circumstances happened. But think about that. He just feared God. He had such a desire in his heart to please his heavenly Father.
Yes.
That's why he told all his dreams.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we have to be the same way.
Yeah.
We need to want to please God in everything we do, whether it's thought or deed.
Okay, there's another person we could talk about a few minutes. This is a New Testament saint. His name was Cornelius, and I'm just going to read this.
Okay.
This is chapter 10 of Acts, verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius. Now, to me, when it says a certain man, I think this is a real person that actually, Jesus told a lot of parables that were stories, about real life experiences, but this was a real person, okay? And it said that he was a centurion of what was called the Italian regiment, a devout man and one who feared God with all his household, okay? He gave generous alms to the people and he prayed to God always. About the 9th hour of the day, he saw clearly in a vision an angel of God coming in and saying to him, Cornelius. And when he observed him, he was afraid and he said, What is it, Lord? And so he said to him, Your prayers and your alms have come up for a memorial before God. Now send men to Joppa and send for Simon, whose surname is Peter. He is lodging with Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the sea, and he will tell you what you must do. Now, as a result of all of this, Peter did come. This man was born again.
He was.
And his whole household.
Yes.
Everyone got saved. Why did that happen? It happened because he feared God.
Yes.
He had this respect for God even before he was born again.
He did.
So that's the reason. You can look at people and they look like they might even look like they're living for God, and maybe they don't even actually have a personal experience of being born again, but they can still have that fear of God.
Yes,
some people just do.
That's right.
How they're brought up teaches them that, and they know you need to act right because God is watching or something.
Let's talk about the school of the fear of the Lord.
Okay.
I love this in Psalm 34, verses 11 through 14. It says this. It says, Come, you children, listen to me, and I will teach you the fear of the Lord. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is the man who desires life and loves many days that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. He said, I will teach you the fear of God. So it must be something you have to learn.
And see, he gives you a few little
yes, he does.
tips right there. He says, keep your tongue from evil.
Yeah.
Well, God doesn't want to hear you cursing.
No.
So there you are. And he says, in your lips from speaking deceit.
That's right. Let's read that from the Passion Translation.
Okay.
Come, children of God, and listen to me. I'll share the lesson I've learned of fearing the Lord. Do you want to live a long, good life, enjoying the beauty that fills each day? Then never speak a lie or allow wicked words to come from your mouth. Keep turning your back on every sin and make peace your life motto. Practice being at peace with everyone.
Wow.
In other words, he says here, if you fear the Lord, you're going to watch what you say.
Yeah, it's really it's talking about that. It's talking about a lifestyle, though.
Yes,
the whole way you live is your life will reflect if you fear God. Yeah. That's really, really, this Passion Translation gives it so much detail to bring understanding to you about it. Because, first he's talking about, hey, you want to live a good life? Well, who doesn't?
Everybody
does.
Yeah.
He says, do you want to enjoy the beauty that fills each day? Well, who doesn't want to do that, right? And then he says, well, here you go. Don't lie. Don't say wicked words. Turn your back on sin and make peace your life motto.
That's right. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Read this passage out of Deuteronomy here, in Deuteronomy 31.
Okay, this is chapter 31, verse 10. Moses commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, at the appointed time in the year of release, at the Feast of Tabernacles, when all Israel comes to appear before the Lord your God in the place which he chooses, you shall read this law before all Israel in their hearing. Gather the people together, men and women and little ones, and the stranger who is within your gates, that they may hear and they may learn to fear the Lord your God and carefully observe all the words of this law, that their children who have not known it may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God as long as you live in the land which you cross the Jordan.
But here again, it says that you may learn to fear the Lord your God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and see, he's telling everybody, the whole population, your family people, but people that are not in your family.
That's right.
Everyone needs to know about this.
That's right. Your lifestyle should reflect, and everyone should be able to see that you reverence the Lord,
mm-hmm.
that you are ever mindful of Him.
Right. And there's just so many benefits of fearing God. This was real simple and straightforward about, you want to live a good life. Well,
Yeah.
That's good right there. But we can show you other things that are going to happen.
That's right.
Okay, like one of them is protection.
That is, yes.
And this would be Psalm 34, verse 7. I love this. It says, the angel of the Lord encamps around all those who fear him and delivers them.
Isn't that good?
Now, I like to have some angelic protection,
Yes,
don't you?
Absolutely.
So fear God, and you've got that. And the promise of being delivered.
That's right. This is the Passion Translation. The angels stooped down to listen as I prayed, encircling me, empowering me, and showing me how to escape.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that good?
Wow. That is really good.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Okay, another benefit of fearing the Lord, we find is in Psalm 34 again, verse 9. It says, "Oh, fear the Lord, you his saints. There is no want to those who fear him."
Okay, now when you think of that, do you think of Psalm 23?
I do.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And remember, we talked about that word really means have no lack.
No lack.
And it says no beneficial thing. And here it says there is no want. You could say there is no lack to those who fear him. Worship in awe and wonder. This is the Passion.
Yep.
All you who've been made holy, for all who fear him will feast with plenty.
Now, isn't that good?
You want to have a
So
feast.
we're talking about some benefits here of learning to fear the Lord.
Yeah.
To respect God, to stand in awe of what he's done in your life. I look back and I think, wow.
Mm-hmm. How did you do
How
that?
did all this happen?
Yeah.
It's because of God.
I know. Yeah, and that the fear is really such a, man, that is, this is like a no-brainer.
Right.
This is like, okay, and you can just look at your life every day and know whether or not you're exhibiting this, but it's got to be in your heart. And when it becomes in your heart that, man, more than anything else, you don't ever want to displease God. That's the best attitude you can ever have. And all these other things are just going to happen because you have that.
That's right.
That is so good.
Exactly right.
Okay, I'm going to read you another one.
Okay.
This one is about goodness. Okay? Psalm 31, verse 19. How great is your goodness that you have laid up for those who fear you. You want some of God's goodness?
And fear the Lord. And when we're talking about fearing the Lord, remember, we're not talking about being afraid of God.
Right.
We're talking about having just a real respect for the fact that he is God.
Yeah, honor him. Yeah. And it honors him when your life exhibits this because you're going to be that person
Yes.
who is exhibiting all the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. All those things are going to just happen as you fear God, because that's how you're going to live, because you don't want to displease Him.
That's right.
And then you get all the benefits of that.
That's
It's
right.
like, wow, it's an amazing thing.
It is an amazing thing. So let's go on here. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 19, verse 23. The fear of the Lord leads to life, and he who has it will abide in satisfaction. He will not be visited with evil. If you want to live satisfied, walk in the fear of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it says?
Yeah, and see, Proverbs 22 says the same thing another way. Verse 4, by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life.
We're talking about life as God has it, as God wants it.
Yeah.
Not just every day, get up, go to work, so forth. So we're talking about life like God wants it. Life that is filled to the full and overflowing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good.
Listen to what Passion Translation says about that. Laying aside your life down in tender surrender before the Lord will bring life, prosperity, and honor as your reward.
Wow.
Isn't that good?
That's very good. Okay, so here's something people cry out for a lot, and that would be mercy.
Right?
You know, mercy is something you don't deserve mercy, right?
No.
And there's no way you can get it. Mercy is a gift, right?
It is.
Okay, Luke 1 verse 50 says, His mercy is on those who fear Him from generation to generation. So, fearing God is going to also mean the mercy of God is going to be prevalent in your life.
That's right. And once again, the fear of the Lord is just respecting Him, living your life like you really, really, really respect God.
Mm-hmm.
And you stand in awe of who He is and what He's done. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I like this one. It's found in Psalm 85:9. Surely His salvation is near them that fear Him, that glory may dwell in our land. But His salvation, and that means, you know what salvation means? That doesn't mean just going to heaven.
Right.
Healed, saved, healed, delivered, prospered, and made whole. Those who fear Him.
Salvation. Wow.
Those who fear Him. So there is something to this fearing the Lord. Mm-hmm. And I love this one in Psalm 25. I love this. In Psalm 25, verse 12. Who is the man that fears the Lord? Him shall He teach in the way He chooses. He Himself shall dwell in prosperity, and His descendants shall inherit the earth. The secret of the Lord is with those who fear Him, and He will show them His covenant. Now let's talk about that a minute.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that just a
Yeah.
minute. He says here, if you fear God, that He's going to teach you the way you ought to go.
Right.
He'll show you which way to go. And it says here that if you fear God, you, Susan, are going to dwell in prosperity. And He also says that the Lord is going to share His secrets with you.
See, to me, that's the most interesting one.
Now that is good. He's going to share with me
His
secrets.
Yeah. Okay, so what's going to qualify you to hear some revelation knowledge from God?
Fearing God.
Fearing God. You know, when you put Him first place in your life, and when you decide to, you know, step aside from things like Moses did that day, he saw that burning bush. He said, I believe I'm going to step aside now and hear what God has to say. When you live your life like that, you have just put on the fear of God. And when that happens, there's so many other things that are so available to you, but this one right here about revelation knowledge, about the secret of God,
Right.
those things, that's more precious than anything else.
It is.
Nothing is like that.
There's absolutely nothing like that. I mean, you just stop thinking about it. He's going to teach you where He wants you to go.
Yeah.
And you're going to dwell in prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
And your descendants will dwell in prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord's going to whisper secrets into your ear.
Yeah. Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm really in love with that
All
one.
right, let's talk about Ecclesiastes. To me, this is so simple.
Okay.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13.
Okay.
Here's what it says. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. In other words, okay, after everything's been said and done, this is it.
Yeah.
Fear God and keep his commandments.
Yeah.
For this is man's all.
Yeah. And when you read this whole book of Ecclesiastes, King Solomon, he had, he did it all.
Yeah.
He did the good, he did the bad, he did the ugly, right? But at the end of it, this is what was understood. The conclusion is fear God and keep his commandments.
Fear God, do what he says.
That is man's all.
That's right.
Let me read the Amplified, okay? It says, all has been heard. The end of the matter is fear God. And I love this explanation.
Right.
Revere and worship him knowing that he is.
That's good.
That's a real good definition of fearing God.
Yes, it is.
Revere and worship him knowing that he is. And keep his commandments. For this is the whole of man, the full original purpose of his creation, the object of God's providence, the root of character, the foundation, I love this, the foundation of all happiness. The foundation of all happiness has to do with fearing God.
Yes, it does.
The adjustment to all inharmonious circumstances and conditions under the sun, and the whole duty for every man.
So, the bottom line is, fear God and do what he says.
Yeah, man, that's just simple, isn't it?
I mean, you can't get any more simple than that.
That is just really clear.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Susan, I will thank you for allowing us to be a part of your week. We thank you for partnering with us here at The Bottom Line. We want you to know that as our partners, we pray for you every day. Not a day goes by that we don't pray for you. If you have prayer requests, you can send them to us here at The Bottom Line. We would love to pray for you. We believe that God answers the prayer of faith.
Absolutely, he
Isn't that true?
does.
Because
He
that's what
does.
the Bible says.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to remember this. Jesus said, if you continue in my word, then are you my disciples indeed, and you shall
know the truth, and the truth will set you
free.